Chapter 2, Production Possibility Curves. In this video, we're going to look at shifting our production value in order to prepare for trade. So I want you to get out your practice problem set. On your current practice problems, you should have a US graph and a Japan graph. And on that graph, you should not only have the maximum numbers of wheat and computers that both countries can make, but you should have labeled point A, which is the 50-50 point. On your US graph, the 50-50 point is 2,500 and 250, and that should be labeled A. And then on the Japan graph, that should be 600 and 120. Remember, that is the point at which they need to make more wheat and computers in order for trade to be advantageous. Now we're going to do practice problem question number 3, and you're just going to draw directly on the graphs you've already written. If you want to draw this in a new color or a colored pen of some sort to make it stand out, you're welcome to do that. So for question 1, we're going to use the US graph, and we're going to say that the US, instead of producing 2,500 tons of wheat, they're going to produce 3,400 tons. If they use some of their labor hours to make 3,400 tons of wheat, how many computers can they make with the leftover labor hours? That's what you have to figure out for question number 1. You're going to draw that point on your US graph, the PPF curve, and you're going to label that point B. For question number 2, you're going to draw right on top of your Japan graph, and you're going to assume that Japan, instead of producing at point A, is instead going to produce 240 computers. You need to figure out how much wheat Japan could make if they decide to make 240 computers, and you're going to label that point B. Go ahead and pause the video and work that out on your practice problems, and then come back when you're done. All right, so hopefully you worked this out. If the US decides to use 3,400 tons or to make 3,400 tons of wheat, that means they're going to use 34,000 labor hours to do it. That means of their 50,000 total labor hours left, they've got 16,000 labor hours left. So with 16,000 labor hours, they can make 160 computers. There's lots of different ways to figure out this math. I happen to use the labor hours. You could use point slope formula if you know how to use it properly. There's lots of other ways to use it as well, like setting up ratios. Now, we're going to assume that the US is going to now produce here at point B, 3,400 and 160. So you should have also adjusted your graph for Japan. If Japan has to make 240 computers, then they can make no wheat at all. So point B is the maximum number of computers and no wheat. So we're going to assume that Japan, in preparation for trade, is going to produce all 240 computers. And now we're going to see if they can trade.